And the poem is this. It was written in, when Putin went into Crimea. It took till 2018 to get published at Tuck magazine. And then over the last year, it's appeared in numerous newspapers. It's called Shevchenko Stirs in His Grave. Shevchenko is the national poet of Ukraine, who was exiled for 10 years after he made jokes about Tsar Nicholas I, who was a short, bald-headed man. The bear continues to paw away at lines as the eagle circles above, never landing. The blue shield bends but holds as the world watches. Shevchenko stirs in his grave. An angry little man who loves his mirror struts about Moscow, spews lies, hungers for the empire that shattered decades ago. A little man in search of little Russia plays with soldiers as if they are toys. Each die in the name of his ego. Shevchenko stirs in his grave. Crimea whimpers under the paw of the bear as the little man dances. Tanks pass through the old square. He ignores mothers of Ukraine and Russia weeping for loved ones lost. He catches his reflection, admires himself, puffs out his chest, wants to be taller. Shevchenko stirs in his grave. White girl falcon ascends the blue-gray skies of Ukraine. Gold heads east. That's it. We gotta take a moment of silence for the 11 people that were shot last night on South Street and the 2 that died. Just take a moment of silence. I have a poem that will address that at the end of my reading here. Anybody been to 30th Street Station? So, 30th Street Station used to have red signs, and it has a Solari board that would click and clack with each arrival of trains as they would do things. So this poem was written a short time ago, but it doesn't apply to the LED system they have now. So here we go. 30th Street Station. Here on the west bank of the Schuylkill, Shaw's 8 stories of steel rise above train tracks and Bridgewater. Encased cathedral windows and travertine walls, catwalk across porticos of classical columns, sun streams in. Hancock's archangel rises from Tennessee marble. A soldier in arms looks to coffered ceiling, rests between Art Deco chance chandeliers. Gilded ornate columns glisten above dark wooden benches, where signs of blue lead to tracks of steel as the destination board clicks and clacks on trains' arrival. In the North Hall, aged brass images of Atterbury, Gibbs, Thompson keep eye on commuters, rushing to and fro. Embedded on the west wall, bitter century-old spirit sings out in the grunts of oxen, horses, of ornate carriages, pioneers, weary mothers of children, the youngest carrying an airship into the future. On the concourse, they open and close books. Newspapers tap on keyboards, whisper sweet nothings into lovers' ears, make business deals, greet family, travel in all direction in this last great temple of what were once the railroad gods. This is for Bob Zell, tapping chord. It is here the bartender is your best friend. Everyone else is just an acquaintance. The mahogany bars, well worn as are those who occupy the tattered stools along the darkened brass. Dim lights lessen harshness of age lines and red noses of tinted hair and bad toupees. They posture as music from another era plays, tell jokes, stories, and everyone laughs. Bartender works the crowd, pours shots, taps beers, sweet drinks for ladies. And one by one they leave as they had come. And if they don't return, no one really remembers their names. So this next poem is about a fictional journey, and I'd like to see if anybody picks up about who comes along the road. What poets?
What poets are.
Well, I don't want to say tell everything. The road was long, took sudden, mysterious turns, bending and weaving through the flatlands and hillsides, up mountains, descending into valleys. An occasional farm town or house would pop up along the road, and there were many things to see along the way, if you looked and listened. I passed by a farm. A birch tree had fallen, breached the old stone wall. The farmer was tending to dig in a hole, and I could hear the pain of loss in his silence and the cry of a woman inside the house. A few days later, I passed through a small town, and along the gas-lit street did see a small boy with a picture of his father in his hand, the startled look on his face when his mother slapped him, how he stepped outside and tended to the small garden out front. And then there was the man who stood along the small pond, mourned for himself at his loss and how unjust it was for him to be in the world alone. I saw him walk to the cemetery, stare at the stone, and cry. And I didn't know who he cried for, the one in the ground or himself. I traveled through another town and saw the oddest thing yet. A naked man in a window, dancing, looking at himself in a mirror, crying how lonely he was as he ate plums. His newborn lay resting in the adjacent room. It was not like this everywhere along the road. These were just things I observed along the way. Undeterred, I continued through the flatlands, up the hills, to the mountains and the valleys, where I came upon a stone house on a sycamore-lined street and saw her by the picture window speaking to a cardinal in a brush painted by night as daisies and black-eyed Susans swayed in the wind. And then there was the old man who sat on the beach with a buffalo nickel in his hand. He rubbed it in his thumb as he thought of her dance on the beach, she who never returned. He then returned home to provide meat for the outlaws. A few days later, I came upon the Earl of Chester, who came via the bay, played with the alphabet, searched for words, columns and lines, words and words. He said it's all about words. I passed through the Valley of Paradise that St. Antonio watched over and saw a lonely boy sit on a curb, wrote in a copybook, read what he wrote through thick glasses, found his vision, followed his destiny. And then there was a woman who sat in high grass along the river, her hand along the stalks, looked out upon wildflowers until that ambling alligator ran past her. She then knew that all in nature was not as beautiful as she. And on this road of words, of mysterious turns that bend and weave, through all our lives I take in what I see, listen to what they say, watch what they do, and write what I can. No. Only if somebody asks later. Car wash folks. They go unnoticed as part of the machine, though they would like to think not. Some come from discarded lives of prosperity, others from addiction, and yet others just have always been there. Their faces worn, creased as an old piece of leather left out in the rain. Their bodies take a beating from the daily grind of scrubbing, mopping, cleaning of tires, sides of cars, until the car enters the tunnel, and on the other side, in the heat of summer or cold, they wipe them down, one after another, for minimum wage and tips. Car wash folks of white, black, brown, yellow, of male, of female, they work this hard scrabble life always with the dream of moving on, getting ahead, work, scrub, wipe down, wait for the break that never comes. The show. Rattle, 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 the sound pulsating from the closets of the mind. Mistakes, missteps, malfunction. For every success, there are dozens of failures. Time moves on. Young, old, life. There are no perfect lives, just lives that are lived. Attention, admonishment, unadorned. There you were, up front, the center of attention as always. Everyone remarked how handsome you were in old age. No matter how great your accomplishment, They still whisper to each other. Whisper, whisper, whisper. Murmuring saturated the room as the closet door opened and the skeleton was played like a Steinway. There are no secrets in death. Remembrance, memorial, eulogy. Father Luke spoke of your accomplishments, praised your success, although he never met you. Heaven opened its doors to you, though he didn't know you never believed in Jesus. Dust, soil, clay. Dropped in the hole, they leave you behind, eat, drink, celebrate you until drunk, and then the murmuring. Rattle, rattle, rattle. The instrumentalist. I never saw him in the ballpark, his stocky frame topped with a straw hat. He, the unofficial greeter, played Take Me Out to the Ball Game on a trumpet that was older than he was. On the corner across from the right field gate before and after the game, his gray bearded cheeks would puff out until the last fan passed, and again at the end of the game, he said goodbye with the Saints. The only acknowledgement he gave was when a dollar bill softly floated into the ever-present bucket on the ground in front of him. There for the series and the lost seasons, always played as it was his last performance. He played here in the corner and was great as Nichols, Armstrong, Gillespie, all those games, his audience of thousands in constant motion, dropping dollars into his bucket. So they say you can wax poetic about anything. This is called Mascaro's Alarm. Mascaro's is a trash hauler in the north part of the city. I hear the announcement of morning's arrival, diesel engines revving and revving as if a struggle to stay alive. Birds go quiet in the trees as alarms pierce the air, echo off buildings. Arms unbend, steel forks slap the ground, alarms go quiet as the forks pierce the channels and the box glands invent it. Constant revving and revving as the arms lift the box over the man in the cab, and then bang and clang with items falling into the steel bed. Revving and revving as the packer blade compresses along bronze shoes. The bang of the box booms as it's dropped back into place, a brief moment of quiet. Alarm sound again, revving and revving as the engine struggles once again in reverse. The large red truck navigates its way through the small parking lot, revving and revving, lurches onto the street. Birds and trees sing once again. Sounds of leaves kissed by wind fills the air, as does the patter of rain against the window. Night sky. Lilith created of the clay that created Adam, co-equal, independent, rejected him. Mythology of man cast her as a demon, servant of Samael. Eve, created from the rib of Adam, submissive, yet the thirst for knowledge caused the bite of sour, bitter, juicy apple. Cast from the garden, mythology of man cast blame for eternity. Night sky, hazy band of light and darkness. Disk spins as distant galaxies rotate. Black holes suck all within reach. Mythology of man placed him and earth in the center of it all. As Lilith and Eve and all those who challenged were persecuted, tried, convicted of the truth. Through centuries of vibrant enlightenment, black hole of fascism, experiments of freedom, suppression of beliefs, of caste, of classes, of elite, of life valued, life dismissed. Threads traced to mythology of man, of inequality, controlled the first mistake. Night sky of hazy light, spin, spin, spin. Hope in the light of knowledge, cut the thread of mythology. Humanity, co-equal, rise, rise, rise as one. Can you give me water? Thank you. So before COVID, Diana and I used to tour the East Coast on trains. going from reading to reading. And we went as far as from Richmond to Boston and then out to Pittsburgh. This happened on one of those rides. We took a train to New Haven. We got there in the afternoon, did the reading, and got out of the reading like around 10 and caught a train back to Philadelphia at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Because I had to work the next day.
So this is called Screeches and Sighs. We are on the train again, travel from home to a city we don't know. Look out upon the traffic jams and are grateful for the train. Flanged wheels churn atop smooth steel. They sing out in a rumble, groans of stressed metal and rhythm as the car sways and rocks. Cloud cover is low today as if the ceiling is just outside our window. Train picks up speed as your pen sketches what will become a poem on folded yellow paper. 100 or so people fill the seats. The lonely lady in front of us sits isolated, engaged as though around her with conversation until her annoyance is silenced. There's a man who brags about moving, speaks loudly to his infant child about a new future and a new town. His weepy-eyed wife belies his bravado. Her body droops into her seat. Two young girls chatter away. They talk so fast no one can tell what they say. Their laughter and joy fill the car as the weepy-eyed wife rubs her eyes. Train screeches and sighs as it makes a stop. There's only one seat left open on the car. The lonely woman is delighted as the young girl sits in the vacant seat. She talks nonstop for 10 minutes until the girl pulls her hat down, slumps against the window, and feigns sleep. People board in the train along a 200-mile route through cities and villages, along waterways, harbors, and bays. Our destination met, we explore this new city, read our poems in the evening, and infancy of the new morning, board another train home. So you know how everybody thinks they're cool when they listen to their music? Especially in the summertime when the windows are down. Cruising. We look at him, silver hair, driving a '57 Chevy convertible. Top is down as music blares from the stereo. Elvis, Bill Haley in the comments. He is here, but he is not. Has traveled back in time when he was lean. Slicked back black hair, t-shirt, and jeans. He is rocking to his music as if it was yesterday. We smile at each other, put the windows down, play Stevie Ray, Mountain, Oasis, even Kenny Rogers. We cruise back in time as if it was yesterday. A low-riding Buick pulls up next to us at the light, thump of bass. Freddie Gibbs and Mad Lib as the light changes, Lizzo comes on. As they cruise in the present, the driver looks upon us, smiles, just as we had looking upon the man in the '57 Chevy. In costume. The millennials are in overdrive as they walk this hip area of Chestnut Street just before Halloween. There are pirates, doms, subs, angels, hot pan hookers, guys in drag, even a homeless guy. Young and drunk, noise they make is louder than the traffic they stop when crossing the intersection. Round after round they buy, all drink up. As evening turns to early morn, they make their way home, stagger, hold on to each other until they ascend to their converted factory lofts. The party continues on except for one, who staggers, turns into an alley, eyes blurry, belly full of booze. He sits on a grate, pulls up his blanket, and dreams of what could have been. So Roxanne at the Philadelphia Citizen published this poem and then recorded it. I had a difficult time for some reason getting it published before then, but I think it's appropriate tonight as we mourn the loss of life yet again in the city of Philadelphia. Philadelphia. I dream of my city of Philadelphia, of a time when peace will come to its streets. I see the people of this city, a city I love in white, black, yellow, tan, brown. I celebrate the people of my city, the good people who love their families, aspire to the same goals of peace, comfort, love. This is not an easy city, a city named for love. We have overcome resistance through centuries, for this is a city of immigrants, blending in over time, who chart their own course, strengthen neighborhoods as their culture becomes part of the fabric of the city that I love. And in this city I dream of, this city that I love, I am a realist. Know of the hard scrabble neighborhoods, have walked its tough streets, survived a few fights here and there, and yet in every neighborhood there is hope and love and people who dream as I do, of a time when peace will come into its streets. I have sung my poems, I have sung to end the violence, I have sung of its beauty, I have sung of its people, and I sing now for my city, my Philadelphia. I sing to the people of Philadelphia from Broad and Glenwood, 68th and Woodbine, Rawn and Oxford, Cottman and Frankfurt, Benner and Torresdale, 10th and Washington, 70th and Woodland, 52nd and Lancaster, Ridge and Ripka. From all the streets of the city, I sing of my dream that peace will come to our streets. I raise my hands to the sky and I sing my poems, for I have hope for Philadelphia. Thank you.